Welcome to this fortnightly episode of our open teaching group.
Mm.
We are diving into annihilation spaces, the void area, and no self spaces. Something I don't know, Nat. Do you love talking
But
about it? Do you like it? What's the go? I'm
it's
assuming it's not on the first piece of content that you're delivering to
it's not the
online
first piece of
forums.
content. No. It's not normally something that I would kind of deliver publicly because I mean it's strange. It's a strange space, and it's something that our kind of we'll get it. We'll suppose we'll get into it. That our the way our European mind has kind of found our way over here and then developed, it's not really accustomed to emptiness, void spaces, and this kind of empty feeling. We don't like the feeling of empty or hollow at all, at all, because we don't know what to do with it. We don't know where it goes. We don't know what it means. We just panic essentially. So, the feeling of hollowness, the feeling of emptiness, the feeling of nothingness, it's can be it seems to show up as quite a concern for our mind, inside of our mind. It gets very alarm bells go off for sure. So let's discuss it. We'll just discuss kind of what where it comes from, what happens, what's it like, and some of the differences. So Tommy, keep me on track with the question or the four dot points.
Yeah. So,
Cool.
team, if you just showed up to the class, you're not too sure what we're diving into, but you've just got it in your calendar and you're here every second couple of weeks. We are diving into annihilation, voids, and no self spaces, and we're going to do our best to cover at the end of the day really clearly what they are. Why do they arise? The deeper that you go.
Mm.
This is a pretty cool one. I'm interested to picking Nat's brain as well on all of your behalf. However, keep the questions coming through, which is understanding and knowing the difference between annihilation space and trauma.
Trauma. Yeah.
Uh, Nat wants to share why, from a bit of an observation point of view, why there's nothing really that covers this in the personal development market or is able to
Yeah.
go there. And then at the end of the day, at the end of the class, we'll wrap up with 3 navigation tips for anyone who is navigating this arena or is prepared and committed to navigate the arena now, knowing a little bit more about it. How does that sound, everyone?
Great summary, Tixley. Great
Awesome.
summary. Okay, let's do it, team. Let's do it. So, uh, we are conditioned from day one, right? That when we go out into our world, we've got to do something, be something. We've got to fulfill ourselves, sustain ourselves. We've got to make something happen of ourselves, and we've got to become something. We don't really recognize because it's pretty subtle that our entire cultural upbringing was based on one half of the coin, and the one half of the coin we were kind of focused on was fullness, an experience of fullness. We want more money, more people, more things, more. We want more food, more delicious food. We want to drive our favorite car. We want to drive our favorite car up a mountain. Then we want to drive our favorite car up a mountain with our with our love interest. Then we want to drive our favorite car up a mountain with a love interest with a bottle of wine or a joint or whatever, right? So we just keep stacking things to try and experience more fullness. And well, uh, what's that been like for everyone here? Trying to constantly fulfill something. What are we trying to fulfill? What is that? Well, what we're trying to fulfill is this void space that sits inside of us. Um, it's tiring. It's really tiring because we don't really recognize that as a human being, we don't actually need much. We don't need much to create fulfillment. We need enough money, a comfortable house, someone to hang out with, someone to love, and that's really it. Because there's the other side of the coin, and the other side of the coin is a word we don't like to use or don't like to experience, but the other side of the coin is emptiness. But we are unfamiliar with the treasures of emptiness, with what emptiness means, what it feels like. So when we've been conditioned in a life of fullness, build stuff, create stuff, eat stuff, consume stuff, create stuff, hang out with people, more money. That's kind of been it, right? And we've been told that that's a really good thing to do. But have you noticed this? And I want to throw over to you guys. Have you noticed that everyone here, there's something in you, there's something in you that just wants a fucking break, right? Has everyone noticed that? Has everyone had that private conversation with themselves where you go, is this just going to roll on forever? Like, is this it? Is it just going to keep going on? Like an endless stream of time? Okay. What that is that is the whispers of the other side of this human experience called void or emptiness. So the first thing we want to recognize here is that and that empty spot inside of you is the place in which you rest. That's the weirdest thing. The void-like emptiness is where you actually take a rest. It's where things stop. But they don't stop in the way you want them to stop. So we'll talk about now the inflow and outflow of mind. There's an outflow of mind. Think of mind like a tide. There's an outflow of mind. So when you wake up, typically you're in an outflow of mind. You wake up and then you're into, what do I need to do for the day? You're focused outwardly. What we suck at, because of the way our lives are, is when we finish our day, we don't turn the mind back in. We try and keep it flowing out. Well, how can I have a nice dinner experience? How can I have a nice after dinner experience? How can I fulfill? I'll stay up for half an hour just to watch a Netflix show because I want a little another sip of fulfillment before I go to bed. Right? Everyone tries to fulfill their day with moments because a natural mind flows out and then flows in. And the inward flow is sitting, looking in, practice, not trying to fulfill. Question to the chat panel: what happens inside you if you take a moment and not try to fulfill it? What happens?
Be great to see everybody jump to the chat panel here.
Boredom, unrest. These are good answers. Start looking for them. Feel uncomfortable. Guilt. Yeah, nice one. Guilt. That's a common one too. See, guys, look at all this stuff. Everything is. Look at all this stuff that sits between your outward mind and your inward flow of mind. If I'm asking you, when you sit and stop and don't fulfill the moment, if you get disturbed in any way, right, your mind does not know how to flow in nicely and sweetly. Guilt, and this is wrong. Yeah, so guys, everyone who's answered that's put stuff in there, you guys won't be able to rest. That's the truth. You actually won't be able to rest. It's called drive responses. You've been living in such a way for so long that if you tend to take a rest, there's just guilt or anxiety or something. That's called drive response. You are compelled to continue the outflow of mind. I'm compelled by something. That's not natural. That's not, that's not, we believe it's natural, but it's not. It's you know, if you don't have the capacity to stop and center and have nothing there, no wonder we get so tired. Exactly. Then, there's a bounty of discovery when you understand the inflow of mind. So what's the inflow of mind? Well, it's not meditation, because meditation is normally about consciousness and awareness. Meditation is normally a stopping process, but it doesn't actually inquire within. It doesn't start the inflow of mind. It just kind of pauses everything. So let's talk about now why we have this thing called an annihilation space. Team, we'll start the journey in now. The inward journey, the true inward journey, which is an adventure and a journey. It's not just a few practices and something like this. It's quite intense and pretty radical change. The reason why we tend to start the journey and then stop it at certain places is because the best way to define the inward journey is a continual procession of inner deaths. Keywords: continual procession of inner deaths. Not one, but many, one after the other. And so these inward deaths are happening to people now because of, if you've been hanging out with this teaching group for a while, we are building quite a big story. But many people are confronting these inner death-like experiences and they're panicking psychologically, but you don't have to. So the inward journey is a procession of continual deaths. What people tend to do is they have one big inner death, one, and then they build a whole big story around it. And I've lost my ego and I'm free forever. And hey, bro, gal, that's just one. That's just one. Don't shoot yourself in the foot. People that have started this journey, you'll have a death-like experience, and there've many gradations of that. This is the annihilation space. The annihilation space is there is a death force within you. There is a death force within you. And so when people are approaching these annihilation spaces, they dream about death, they think about suicide, they think about killing other people. Like death just becomes the theme in their psyche. Dreams, visions, fears, their partner leaves for work and they just can't help but think they've died in a car accident. Like death just becomes a vibe because the annihilation space is approaching. And it is a end point of a certain phase of life and beginning of a fresh life. And you can't do anything to stop this. In fact, if you try and stop it, you can cause damage. So the annihilation force within us, this death force, is simply a regression force. It feels like regression. So if I take a branch of a tree and cut it off and put it in a box, if I open that box in a week, the branch will be smaller, right? It's lost its life. It's losing its life. That is the regression force. That's the annihilation force. Same thing in humans. But it acts as a growth force for us because we're kind of special in the scheme of things. We actually really are. We're not just a random evolutionary accident. We're kind of special. And so this death force, this annihilation force is the inner journey, and it's a continual acceptance of a deeper and deeper death as the journey goes on. How do we feel about that before I go further?
I'll wait to see some comments come through, and then I'll read a couple out to see how we're doing. Welcome, Michael. Great to see you here, mate.
Welcome, Michael. Yeah, it doesn't need to be heavy. That's the thing, because it's an inbuilt in nature. It sounds heavy to us, but it's happening whether you like it or not.
All right, got some comments coming through.
Yeah, let's do it. Give some comments.
Sam's asking, is this forever?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's the big daddy death at the end when the body dies. I mean, it's just an extension of that.
And it is showing, so you have to die to experience growth.
There's deaths along the way, and it starts small, but there are bigger ones as you kind of go along, which feel all encompassing.
And you mentioned a little bit earlier, Nat. I kind of want to point it out again because I think there's a lot of specialists on the call at the moment, behavioral consultants.
Oh, cool! Welcome, guys.
Emotional workers, mindset mastery professionals. A lot of guys doing some really, really cool stuff in the space.
Otherwise known as legends.
Legends. You mentioned earlier, Nat, like there can be a bit of one of them experiences that you see in the industry is someone going through an annihilation space, a death,
yes.
Often on the other side, some form of psychological concept that I've been liberated.
Yes.
I've come out the other side, so to speak,
yes.
of this. And then it's interesting, right? Because it's very common for an individual then to take that story and now just use it as a filling technique.
Yeah.
And then back to continuing to feel.
Yeah. And that's it's not like, the reason why I don't want people to do that is because you're actually ripping yourself off. It's like shooting yourself in the foot. These annihilation spaces are fertile ground for serious growth, real transformation. And if you jump the gun and you don't let it run its course, you actually don't get the maximum out of the process. Like if you go a little bit through and you come out and then you start building a story around it or a program or whatever, or you want to start sharing about it because it is so fascinating. you've kind of, you've let the horse run too early. You got to let these things run all the way through without jumping the gun and trying to externalize it. These are the best moments for growth. They're the heaviest and then the hardest, and they're sometimes the most confusing. But uh, I just don't want people to rip themselves off with how special, and you want to really let these things run. Like you really want to let them run and run and run and run as long as you can until you've really squeezed the orange, right? And then it's become natural. It feels like a normal part of life. Like when we over analyze these spaces or over project them and externalize them into whatever, then we don't create a normal. We don't build a relationship with this continual process. Like people have one big one, they go, yeah, I'm done, and they when their time comes again, there's just more panic and there's just more, oh, not me again, and there's victim stuff that pop up. And this is the inner life. The inner life is a continual procession of many deaths.
Now, can you speak a little bit, team? How we doing? Jump to the chat panel. Beneficial, valuable. Okay, if I pick Nat's brain
I
here
just want to add
again.
one more thing, Tommy. When these times emerge, the annihilation space, the reason why they're so rough is because there's nothing you can do about it. And all your techniques go out the window, all of your fixations go out the window, all of your senses of security go out the window. There is nothing you can do. There's no tech, not even surrender. You can't even surrender because the annihilation space has you by the balls. You can't even surrender into it. That's why it's so full on. It's surrender doesn't even work. So it is a hang on to your hats and ride it out the best that you can. But no, just this is the epitome of courage in the human inner process. This is the epitome of courage. No one's going to come get you. No one's going to come hold your hand. There is no technique. There's not even surrender because the thing that is used to doing the technique is actually dissolving. That's why it's called an annihilation space. It's full blown annihilation. The thing that you can usually use to augment, control, fixate, manage is dissolving. Go for it.
Got a question that came through that's actually kind of more important than what I was going to ask.
Right, let's do it.
Brent said, "How then do you identify when you're stepping into this state?"
Was that Brent? Brent?
Brent, yeah.
Yeah, so I think Brent, you just missed the start of the call, but the death theme will pop up: dreams about death, ideations about death, people fearing people dying, suicidal thoughts all the time, and like when the Western mind picks up this stuff, it just panics. It thinks depression, it thinks psychology, it thinks mental health problems. It just really panics in this death space. But it's really just an unknown territory for our mind. But if you are to settle and use simple practices of contactfulness, being in contact with your experience, you'll realize um it's quite bloody peaceful. That's the weird thing. This annihilation space, when you actually be with it, you'll have the realization because everyone does. Everyone has the same realization. Oh my God, it's so peaceful in here. That's not easy because you got to get through the psychological reactions. But past the psychological reactions, you'll realize, holy shit, this is the resting place. This void like nothingness is actually where everything cools down. You can't stop the world, guys. You're part of it. You can't stop that. You're not going to get a rest in the world. It doesn't happen. So that's annihilation space. We will move on to void and no self because there's subtle differences. But I think we'll go into the trauma question now, Tommy. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Sweet. All right. This is the tricky one because inside of a trauma experience where a certain trauma gets triggered, there is what's called psychological reactions to the trauma. So there's a whole bunch of panic and story and management and things like that. The same thing will happen in the annihilation space: panic, reaction, management, control, whatever. It's very unnerving. It's very unnerving. But the primary difference between a trauma response and an annihilation experience is that if it was a trauma trigger, there will be a long recovery on the other side, a long, long recovery. Um, like you've just been run over by a truck. You know, uh, there's a lot. Yeah, there's you've just been battered and bruised. You've fired up an old trauma knot, and that takes recovery. Strangest thing about these annihilation spaces is during it they feel similar, but on the other side of it, the the recovery is almost instant because this annihilation force is full of life. That's the paradox here. That's the confusing thing is the annihilation space is full of life, full of it, full of vital energy, full of elan vital, full of, you know, full of healing properties. So on the back end of an annihilation space, you get this like bounce back effect of greater life, greater self. That's the primary difference. If it's trauma, it just kind of holds you down. Yeah.
Nat, I've got a question for you from my own personal experience, and I want to know if this is what you've seen across the board. When it comes to working with someone, and myself particularly, one of the subtle differences between trauma responses and experiences and
Mm.
annihilation spaces
Yeah.
is I've noticed that in the annihilation space, there's often such a lack of justification for being there.
Mm, 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 mm.
Is that
Yeah,
pretty
that's
common?
that
There's
that's a banger. Yeah.
Yeah. When there's a trauma response, for anyone that doesn't know me, I used to experience panic attacks and whatnot. There was always a reason for it. Oh, I'm doing this thing again. Even
Yeah.
that line would be like, here's
Yeah.
this thing again. I know this thing. Oh my God, I'm doing it again. Whenever I've been in annihilation space,
Oh, me
there's
too.
no articulation of why it's here, how it's here, if I can control it. And I don't even have a safety fallback pattern to deal with it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's perfect. That's perfect. Okay, so that's there's a real pull that you're being pulled into the annihilation space. Like it you might have once a week you might have this little death thought, and then the next week it might be two times a week, and then all of a sudden it's all day, you know, so you get like sucked into it. We'll move on to void spaces now. Void spaces, uh void spaces are areas in time which can happen to anyone where uh okay, let me start again. Guys, you need to come to the FSC membership where I explain the culture. Because if you had the cultural understanding, then this could be half the time. But we only know life through a separation existence. Like we don't know full-blown unity states. We only know bounded separation. We feel like our skin is our boundary and our mind is our boundary. And we only really know life through object relations, which is I'm an object, you're an object. We've got to manage all these objects. Hopefully, I get objects that are nice, and hopefully, I avoid objects that are bad. That's kind of how we know life. But it's a limited conception and it's not a full whack of truth. So, because we live in this bounded, separate existence, the space between the bounded, separate existence and the truer holism of a unified field of awareness, a unified flow of everything, because we don't experience that, in between, there is a void space. In between full whack reality and our bounded existence, there is a void space. It's void. There's nothing there because, and this is the heaviest. This is a heavy part of understanding the truth of the ego function. The ego is a multifaceted, more mechanical thing that the ego itself is actually empty. Like its function and its self projection is empty. So anything the ego does or produces or gains is also empty. So when you start to journey out of the gravity field of the ego, because the first thing you got to escape is the gravity field of the ego because it's so intense. The first thing you'll experience is this void-like nothingness. And people panic and go, this ain't for me. Give me back my ego. Give me back that routine, that feeling. Give me back my great little brekkie in the morning and a couple of cuddles, and I'll be fine because that void space is fucked. It's so foreign. So we'll pause there. I think we've got a question, but we'll explain that void space between the unified experience of full totality and our bounded existence, in between, there is quite a deep and gnarly void space that can pop out at any moment. That's the weird thing. Good question there, Tommy.
Yeah, we got a question. It's solid. It's,
Oh,
I know, on the top, on the tip of everyone's tongue, sitting here like,
it's
oh
solid.
God.
It's solid.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Who threw this one down the pipe?
yeah, Kevin's asked a question here.
Kevin.
Uh,
Respect.
it seems like this annihilation area is a necessary step of growth.
Yes.
How do we approach being scared of not functioning for our
Yeah.
basic needs whilst in this long
Yeah.
recovery?
Yeah. That's a great question. That's a great question. You're absolutely right. Um, Great question. How do you cover your basic needs? The truth is sometimes you don't. Like the truth is sometimes you don't. Uh, and it's like the amount of time I've lost count, team. I've lost count of how many times I've just been dragged into hell. And you kind of get used to this feeling of like essential trust. You kind of have to gather it. You know, as I go back before, this bounded experience we don't have really good trust. Like none of us, by the way. If you still feel quite locked into your individuality, trust is not going to come natural. Um, this process of these annihilation spaces basically shove down your face essential trust or suffer. So, you know, will that mean that you have to cancel work sometimes? Yeah, probably. Will that mean that you might not eat for a day? Yeah, probably. But I would say think beyond, you know, if we're still hanging on to, yeah, what about my day-to-day kind of responsibilities? Then there's not yet an appreciation for how intense this space is. Like that goes out the window pretty quick because the annihilation space is a unitary experience. It is a oneness experience. It's when you go into it, it's not like there's just this individual in there suffering. The whole concept of individuality gets sucked away into it. So it is a unitary oneness experience. So once you're in there, all of that stuff is out the window. Does that make sense? Yeah. Yeah. It uh
Which Nat, it's probably important to say, is what is dissolving and dying.
it is what yeah,
That is the
exactly.
fear and the concept of, hang on, I need to
Yes.
look after my basic needs first.
Yes.
That's part of what's
That's
dissolving.
part of it. Exactly right. Exactly right. Yeah, cool. Nice question. Great question. Okay, so when we start to enter these void-like spaces, they have a mystical element to it to watch out for. Um, what happens is people on the inner journey, you're moving away from the surface of the ego all the time. Like you're on the journey all the time. You're always moving away from the surface of the ego. So the ego has a surface, it's got a shell, it's got a few other factors to it. But when you experience these void-like places, you can normally have what's called an inverse mystical experience. An inverse mystical experience is you're experiencing a oneness, like you really see it, you feel it in the moment. Oh my God, this is all one thing. But because it's in a void-like place, then what happens is you feel a oneness with everybody else's ego shell. So everyone looks dead and plasticine like. Like everyone looks like an NPC character because you're having a void, like you're in the void, but you're also seeing material bodies moving around. So everyone takes on this like plasticine type look and everyone kind of looks zombie like. And that's a really common experience in these voids is a feeling of everything is unreality. This is really scary. And this is, I think, where this simulation chat is coming from. Is that it's the experience of the void, but with a unity experience, but the unity is just with the material stuff. And so it does look fake, modified, and compelled by a non-human force. It looks like that. I would say that's the best way to think about that is called an inverse mystical experience, which is its oneness, but it's not its depth. It's just on the surface. And so people here, right? Like I know a lot of people here who's done some great work where uh, they've moved beyond the shell of the ego. And here's where another void space pops up. If you've done good interior work and you know it because you've felt transformation, you know what that feels like, your center of gravity can easily drift back into your ego shell, but there's nothing there anymore because it's been drained. The content of the ego has been drained. So if your identity drifts back into the shell of the ego just on your process, as it does, then again, bang, that's a void-like experience. I'm nothing. The world's nothing. What's the point? What's the point of doing anything? Yes, Brent. I'm nothing. The world's nothing. Everything is nothing. There's no meaning ever, and everything looks plasticine-like. What's the point? That is a void space of when the ego shell has been drained, but yet you've come back and identified with it. Is this too heavy? Is this, can someone give me some feedback here?
How we doing, team? Jump to the chat panel. Pulse check. And we do have another question, probably beneficial to everybody. We spoke a little bit about yesterday in our
Yeah.
online group roundtable. The question's from Jim. Can you induce/bring on these states, example, more in your
Yeah.
self-inquiry work, or it just comes when you're ready?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can, team. You can turn these suckers on whenever you want. Using practices, I mean, my favorite's inquiry because it actually there are practices of emptiness where you kind of empty thought content, you empty emotional content. Netty practices. I'm not that, I'm not that, I'm not that, I'm not that. And it's an emptying process. But most of the emptiness practices we're given um, have come from teachers of consciousness and awareness, which in our material cultural world, they're too delicate. They don't empty enough because they don't understand that our inner world today has hundreds of more boundaries inside of us compared to these awareness and consciousness teachers. Like we've got we've got boundaries left, right, and center. Let's just start with everyone's in individual houses. We've got individual clothes, we've got individual identities. Like we've got layers upon layers upon layers of boundary that if we use these delicate, precious practices, they're not heavy enough. We need a heavier hammer. And it looks like to me the heavier the heavier hammer of a practice is inquiry, where you want to tunnel into the felt experience deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper with removing all of the psychological reactions. What am I feeling? Can I go into it? I just call it contactfulness. I'm not a fan of observation practices. I'm not a fan of be the witness, get on the balcony, just watch it play out. I think that's foolish. When a Western mind does that, you're on the road to dissociation immediately. Those witnesses and awareness practices of just watch it, Vipassana style, are really good for people who haven't done anything at all. Really, really good for people who just need a bit of space. But here, if you know how to, if you you guys looking at a little team here, I reckon everyone here lives in a half meditated state all the time, right? You're kind of in the witness all the time. So to actually turn on these emptiness spaces, we want to do the opposite of the witness, which is contactfulness. We want to take this witness awareness, we want to take this thing called awareness and press it in, squish it in to our felt immediate experience, and then hang on to your hats. Contactfulness with inner experience drills you into the inner life. My favorite metaphor. My favorite metaphor about this, I think it's such a good visual, is it's like like pressing oil into gold. What would it feel like and look like to press oil into gold, to polish oil into gold? That's what kind of compression you want, from jump off the witness awareness into the felt experience and press yourself into your felt experience. And that is how you can tunnel into um, beyond the ego shell, beyond the gravity field of the ego, and into the void. And best of luck. Just keep, if you want to take it on, just keep burying in. And anything in the void, there can be lights, there can be spinning, there can be sounds, there can be tremendous felt experience, there can be eruptions of emotion, there can be trauma knots, there can be memories, there can be dissociative, there can be fragments, there can be self-identities. Like, you're in the void, team. It's like a constellation in there. But like what we do in the FSD in the membership is we break down the 5 layers of the 5 layers of the ego machinery, so you can actually inquire through them yourself. It's technical stuff, but it bloody works. It's basically, as I said from the start, we only know the outflow of mind. What Tommy and I do in FSD is teaching people how to actually practice the inflow of mind. Ego shell, self-images, self-contempt, a few more layers as you go down, and you just got to touch on each layer, and then you literally pop through into the void. And that practice is retraining people how to recreate their inflow of mind. And when people crack it, they go, "Oh my God, this is just so nice, because I can finally actually rest. I can take 10 minutes in my car and actually get a rest." So what happens is we'll move on to no self spaces now, which are a little different. Voids are a little scary. No self spaces are trained and predictable spaces where you go into the no self. It's trained and predictable because you've been with yourself enough where you go, I want to practice emptiness now. I want to be with a no self space and recognize and recover its peace. There is no peace for the individual. That's a weird thing to say, but there is no peace for the bounded individual. There's only peace. There's only true peace in starting with the no self space. I mean, we can get to integrated peace later on, but if you haven't really had much experiences with a peaceful life, then learning how to come into the no self space and settling in the kind of scary reactions of it, because the mind will want to grab and fixate onto something. But when you can settle it into the no self space, this warm water just like flows through it. Oh my God, I'm just missing this my whole life.
Did anybody else pick up on what Nat said? They're really important line. I'd love, if anyone's taking a note, take that down. There is no peace for the self. Like, there's no peace for the individual. Like, that
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
so important to understand for anybody. If you want to take away something logical from today's call, it's like, oh, there's no peace for the individual.
Yeah.
And that'll just open up a world of questions. Well, where the fuck is it? Who's
Yeah.
going to give it to me? Where am I coming into contact with it?
Yeah.
And that opens up the exploration of what we're discussing here.
Have I covered the questions topic? Because I want to listen to the team's feedback. I sometimes miss the our dot points.
Yeah, we're working through them very well. I do have a question for you, Nat.
Yeah, let's do it.
What does the team do, or how does the team start to identify? Because I know, looking at everyone on the screen, 90% of people on the screen, they're invested in their health. They generally pay for their mental, emotional, psychological health in some capacity. They're in programs. They're doing this with us here.
Yeah.
How do they start to navigate potentially understanding
Oh,
and
man,
appreciating
left.
that some people they may be working with have potentially been saving them and taking them out of a
Yeah.
void by
Yeah.
accidentally thinking they're in self-sabotage?
Yeah. That's a cracker of a question. That's a good question. I'll start with a story. I shared this week actually as well in one of our other classes, is that I used to watch people, right, go into I used to watch their life kind of start to break down. And being me, I was like, great, this is great news. Like, let's keep it going. My clients would be freaking out. But these annihilation spaces, they take on such a momentum that you can't fix or change anything in the process. Like you're going for the ride. And normally, what would happen was this: you would see their life collapse. There would be an actual rock bottom, like a real rock bottom. Most of the time, how that happens is people have been lying for too long, or trimming the truth somewhere, and then it all stacks up and it kind of squeezes them into their own truth, and they spill it all out and they hit rock bottom. And I'm normally standing there with like pom poms, yay, let's do it, let's hit rock bottom, and then, and then we kind of sort it out. And I got used to the rebound was so beautiful. It was so because they just wanted to tell the truth and had this fresh life about them, and their life was burning down, but they're the happiest they've ever been, like classic kind of breakdown moments. Now, what's scary, and I was kind of always an eternal optimist, like we can help everyone, but now when I'm seeing the start of the same phenomena happening, it's being interrupted through the start of the process, and then they take the process and they rebuild a digital image. They rebuild a digital identity through social media, and they use this breakdown moment as fuel for social media and recreate the image, and then they're split in half. Their digital image is fighting against this natural annihilation force, and they just go round and round in cycles, and it's really they can't get out because they can just keep propping up with the digital image. They can stop it. We can stop a natural process now and just be in a holding pattern forever. And Tommy's touched on the same thing here, which is like, if we don't understand this natural regression force, annihilation process, this how we get fresh life in us is this death force. If we try and stop it or don't understand it, then we can accidentally put people in holding patterns for a very, very, very long time. And I'm talking forever, because who knows the client that just says, yeah, no, it's all good, but I just got to be better. I just got to be better. I just got to work harder. I just got to do more planning. I just got to, yeah. And if we get that wrong at the wrong time, we can put people in long-term holding patterns where they just, underneath it all, feel a constant inadequacy that can never be understood. The annihilation force, what it's really good at, it's the best at cleaning up inadequacy, which is that's the festering wound of the bounded individual unhooked from their natural unified state, is a constant and unending feeling of inadequacy.
And does that answer the question, Sam, you asked about 10, 15 minutes ago? Well, what's the point in all of this?
Yeah.
Yeah, Sam's just commented through, I'm in the right place.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
no
hope
one
so.
wants to learn about annihilation spaces or go there. And then they hear, what'd you say? It ends in adequacy? Oh, okay, yes.
Yeah, actually, hang on. I'll take 10, please. Yeah. It's really it's a special moment. It's a special moment in the incarnation's life when it clicks and they go, oh my God, that's the road I want. That's the one. Let me go into that over and over and over. Um, but it challenges a primary artifact of our life. The primary thing it challenges is special identity. So the primary thing these annihilations, voids, and no self spaces challenge is I'm a special identity. These spaces want nothing to do with your special identity. They don't, in fact, care about your special identity.
No, with the time we got left together,
Yeah,
towards the end, we are in about 5 to 7 minutes, team. We're going to look after 3 navigation tips for navigating this area.
yeah,
But before we get there, Nat, question for you is one of the things we wanted to cover today was, and we've kind of covered it a fair bit through the class, but my specific question for you is why is it hard to find this area of discovery in the personal development market? My
yes,
specific question for you is what do we do when we see so many approaches that are about filling mind, your peak
yeah.
performance, your stress
Fullness.
reduction techniques, the fullness, the make the more money, the work, the bigger job, the
Yes.
be a better dad or mom, the be, the
Yep.
whole worthy
Yep.
train.
Yep.
How big's that at the moment? Let's all be worthy is a
Yeah.
process of feeling. And then
Yep.
on the other
Yep.
side, you've got the emptiness experience.
Yes.
But so many individuals are emptying to the extent to feel something specific like peace, content,
Yep.
and that in itself can avoid the void
Yes.
space.
Yes.
It's avoiding it. So what
Yeah.
do we do in the market today?
Well, a few fundamental, I think, starting points is that uh, this individual growth, we're a growing thing. We're a growing thing. That's what we are. We don't have to try for it. We're a growing thing. But this growth space is actually not about your happiness. This growth space is not about your happiness. It's about your growth. And just remember that, like the constant and unending expectation that I get to do something because I want to experience something is distortion. I want to do this to get that, but I'll do emptiness now to get that. If there's motive like that, you are distorting the process. There's distortion involved. And so uh, the this growth process, these death forces are not here for your happiness. They are here for your transcendence and your growth in whatever, however way that comes. Uh, there was so, give me the question again, Tommy, because that was I answered half in my own head, but there's a half I'm missing.
Yeah, the process of, and what I've seen in 11 years is you kind of pick one or the other. Well, from
Oh,
my
that's right. It
experience,
was this difference. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sorry.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We know how to do fullness. We know how to do fullness. That's done. Uh, and the reason why we also need to figure out the emptiness thing is because this growth drive, you can anytime you say growth, you can actually replace it with freedom, and it checks out. The idea of human freedom is it's a very 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 hard thing to talk about. Freedom is a very complex thing to discuss. But on closer analysis, on all of the research I've done, and all the things I've been involved with, this human journey is again, if we link it with this annihilation death force, all that thing wants to do is make you more free. But free is weird. Freer gets weirder and weirder and weirder, not happier and happier and happier. You get freer and freer and freer. We're here to be free, but we don't really know what that means. So when you get more freedom, there is an adjustment period. Every death, more freedom, and then a heavy adjustment period. Another death, more freedom, heavy adjustment period. And the adjustment periods do not sometimes include happiness. A lot of the times they can, but it's just adjustment, adjusting to completely different forces that are not life or mind, adjustment to completely different subtle understandings of what we're doing here, adjustment. So the what I was saying is, if we use emptiness because we got an expectation to get something, then we're distorting the whole process of a continual journey into deeper and deeper freedom. But again, you also got to remove your expectations of what you think freedom is, because freedom can get weird and freedom can get interesting. But you can't put the sucker down because it's so good. That's the weird thing. It's so good. It's so delicious that you'll take the weird with the free. You'll always take it. You'll always go back for more. That's the calling card here is the death force is scary. These void places are weird. You get these strange experiences, but you're always going to come back for more because it's the realest thing. It's the realest thing you will experience. And as I said, Tommy and I ran a culture call the other day. It's that if you look at our culture at large, think about everything this culture has promised you. Because every promise this culture has given you, it's under-delivered, and I know that. The promise of the long-term relationship, the promise of money, the promise of children, the promise of education, all of these great promises, none of them's delivered, have they? Yet when we recognize this deep inner journey, it's weird. There's death forces, there's all these things, but something in you goes, yeah, that's fucking real. Yeah, but that thing's real, and that's over-delivering. This inner journey is actually somehow weirdly over-delivering. Give me more.
Jump into the chat panel, little pulse check team. How we doing? Everyone jump into the chat panel. How's the class so far? And we'll dive
Yeah,
into a
how we
few
doing? How we doing?
navigation
Yeah.
tips but let's just get a check-in. Good. This is great. And now is the time for any questions. I can't promise I'll read them all out, but I will look at them and see which ones are most relevant. Amazing, relevant. Okay, cool.
Okay, got 3 basic tips for you guys, right? And they're kind of basic, but they're really, really helpful. The first one is have a space in your house that is dedicated to this, dedicated to practice, dedicated to your unfolding. You know, a true growth process does not reinforce the self or make the self confident. A true growth process renders the self undone. So have a space in your house that's beautiful. It's got cushions. That's, you know, have whatever you need in there. Just make it beautiful. You can do like a puja-esque table, like a worship table, or like just a space with paintings. It doesn't really matter. Nature doesn't matter, but just have a space in where you unfold. That's tip number 1. Guys, I'm telling you, I know, like, just go do that. If you're actually interested in this, please just go do that one, because you start to build a relationship with this space that when you go sit in there, it fires everything up for you. Okay, point number 2 is there's a part of this where you have to let the body do what the body wants to do. Right, so you can't be in bed laying down with a tea as you're unfolding. You can't be in a nice meditation position. Like, you have to allow the body to shaman itself. If it wants to sing, if it wants to cry, if it wants to squeeze itself to death, if it wants to stretch itself out, if it wants to do whatever, is you have to let the body do its thing. You know, we don't realize that the body, the physical boundary of the body, is the first layer of the ego structure. The boundary of the body is the first layer. So if you can't let the body undo itself, then nothing else will undo itself. And you can be surprised about how much pressure and tension you can actually tolerate in the body. And you go, oh my God, I feel amazing after that. So first one, physical environment, have a space. Second one, you gotta unhook the physicality to let the physicality do what it needs to do. And the last one is, this is the hardest one. This is the ace up the sleeve of Nathaniel. Abandon closure. Abandon closure. There is no closure in this process. Do not hold on even a tiny bit to the mental point of closure. Oh, I'm doing this death force thing because I want more freedom, or I want to be, cool, or whatever it is. Just abandon closure. That's the hardest thing about this psychologically. There is no closure. There is no closure. There is no closure. There is no security. There is no security. So they're the 3 red hot tips: physical space, let the body unfold as well, and abandon closure. And guys, you won't need psychedelics ever again. Trust me. I had a little message come down the pipe not that long ago that I think we might even see a close to the plant medicine stuff soon. Coming to the culture really, really hot. I don't think we will need it soon. I don't think we'll need it. I think these practices and these understandings are coming in so hot and thick that you can do it on the natch, as Terence McKenna would say. Do it on the natch. You know, there is a force inside you that wants to give you these kind of unbound experiences, but you need to be set up correctly.
Got a quick question coming through. As we go through different life stages, do these states vary according to our journey?
As we go through life stages. Yeah. But what tends to happen is, what depends what you mean by life stage. What tends to happen is, as you get more inclined to the interior life, all you want to do is simplify your external life. there's a constant need to simplify and get rid of. It's a rebalancing act. Like you won't strive for all the money. You're happy with enough. You won't, strive for all the things. It's like I'll get things because they're practical, and it's just as fulfilling. Like as the interior life takes off and you go through its stages, what you'll notice exteriorly is a simplification of the external life and a really deep desire to simplify too, and an enjoyment of simplification. I'm kind of down. I'm kind of down to a black tea and my weed pipe every now and then. I'm pretty good. And a few very, very special people.
Just got a question. Brent's asking. So are we abandoning closure for awareness or something else?
Just abandon closure. All just abandon closure. Even doing it for a reason is trying to find closure. Like you got to be pretty gnarly. This is pretty gnarly stuff. There's a level of courage required here. Abandon closure.
You're very welcome, Lauren. Thanks, Terry. Great to hear.
Yeah, well done, team.
Jump to the chat panel, guys. How was that class for you?
Is Ben West still here? Yes, good to see
Yep.
you, Benny. Good to
Yep.
see you, Benny.
How do we go covering team? Annihilation, voids, and no self spaces. How do
Yeah,
we do? I'm sure Nat would love
who's
the.
excited? Brent. Still a pair of pricks. Yeah, thanks, Brent. Not Brent Lindsay, other Brent. What was that, Tommy?
Thanks, Brent. Oh, Brent's just calling us a bunch of pricks as usual.
Oh. Yeah, strange spaces. Strange that if you don't have the background, happy to do more on this. It's all you've got is psychological reaction if you don't have this territory kind of mapped. It's just too full on, like it's too unknown. Our little psychology just panics.
You're welcome, Sal.
I mean, the other dimension to this is there is a spiritual and transpersonal dimension to this, but I want to keep it kind of straight laced for the moment. We kind of cover what happens and where it goes in FSD and our transpersonal kind of stuff, because that's the kind of next step. But I think here is just those spaces exist. They're very real. They're very helpful. They're the most real, actually. You have to dance with the paradox of death is life. And if you're fearful of death, you're fearful of life itself. If you can understand these death forces, then life becomes amazing. Sorry, Isabel, 9 o'clock out of time, my dear. You have to ask. No, I'm kidding. We're out of time.
Yeah, loving all the comments coming through. Can't see any questions, guys.
I think there's one more, Isabel. I'm happy to answer if you.
No, that's just a statement, I believe.
Okay, great. Great. Love a statement.
Sam's saying, thanks, guys. Got to go and die some more.
Yeah, how good. Me too.
Brent sharing, do you lads realize that you have provided some of the toughest fights I've ever had, and each one has become rewarding, far harder than the physical? And that's coming from a defense master.
That's coming from a gangster, guys. That's coming from a straight gangster.
Thank you very much for sharing, Brent. That's a beautiful comment. You're welcome. Okay, just getting all thank yous. All right, guys, enjoy the rest of your day.
Well done. Well done. Bye.
See you in 2 weeks.